best of the best is right in front of you.
Dean Malenko. Mean Malenko, the man of 1,000 holds, man. I can't say enough good things about Dean Malenko. I know he was Wrestler of the Year in 1997, but what people don't understand, he had been in the wrestling business for like 18 years before he got a big break. He was a big star in Japan.
Arn Anderson had come over and done a tour with us along with Steve Austin and several other guys working for World Championship Wrestling. And that was my first meeting and first time I really got to spend some time with Arn. And I really got to respect him a lot as an individual and a performer. And Arn at that point went back to Eric Bischoff, who was at that point heading up World Championship Wrestling, and talked about myself and Chris and Eddie about bringing us over to work for WCW. And I never forgot that. And Arn, up to this day, is still a dear friend of mine and somebody that I highly respect as a performer in the ring and an individual outside of it.
He started my training after about 4 months.
There's a certain adrenaline rush that you're not going to get on a 9-to-5 job sitting behind a desk.
We become friends. We're close in age, give or take a couple of years. And I always say it, give or take, because I don't want to stooge him out that I might be. I'm a little bit younger. Anyway, Dean's done stuff for WWF back in the day, like refereeing when it comes to Tampa. He'd done a lot of different things for NWA stuff that was off TV. And I asked him about it because I wasn't smart enough to the business back. I'm like, hey, why aren't you on that show? Why are you refereeing? But it's a paycheck, and I understood that. But he said because he can't go on TV, and he was making killer money back in the day. Him and his brother over in Japan. He said, I can't go on TV and get beat here and expect to keep my contracts in Japan. So even though he had some good connections with those companies because they knew who he was, he couldn't just go on TV and wrestle and get beat, but he could, work some independent dates for him as an independent contractor and do, some refereeing or maybe book some guys that do TV jobs and that type of thing. So Dean always had his finger in the pot, if you will, stirring a little bit, keeping the interest out there. But with that said, Dean, to me, I said it, I was in Australia, and I looked at the referee, and Dean was in the ring wrestling with another referee, obviously, in wrestling, Chris Benoit, I think it was.
Yeah.
I just looked at Frankie Reyes, who was from Florida. He's a Malenko guy. He was a good friend with Larry, a little bit older than Dean and myself. And I looked at Frankie, and I said, man, my God, is Dean Malenko the most underrated wrestler in the world right now or what? And Frankie said, man, Bobby, I've said it for years. And this was 93. And Dean, to me, there's nothing he could or could not do in the ring. He was. I'll say this about him, and I'm going to say it about someone else in just a minute, and that is this. If Dean Malenko's personality, because I'm going to let you finish up, Dean, otherwise I'll ramble on too long about Dean.
Sure.
If Dean's personality, because he had a great body, Dean had that fucking tendon ligament strength too, by the way. He had he was a shooter, and he did some different stuff. I mean, he could work. But Dean had a good body, and Dean could work. But if Dean's personality, that held him back a little bit, because of the personality that you saw in the back, off camera, riding around with, at a Hooters or at a restaurant, or just on a bus with, Dean would just bust your gut with just funny, smart witticisms.
Dean Malenko has such great dry humor. But they didn't put a mic in front of him. They just let him wrestle.
Mm-hmm. Very educated, very worldly, and man, if he could have portrayed that on the TV with his interviews and stuff, it's hard to tell what he would have been able to do. Especially once they got to WWE up there, WWF, whatever the fuck. I always say that, but anyway, my point is, if he could have conveyed that off camera, his real personality onto camera, it's unreal. But even though he was Wrestler of the Year in 97 and world traveled, worldwide famous and all that, I still think Dean Malenko is one of the most underrated professional wrestlers of all time, and I'll shut up.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, for my money, he is the greatest technical wrestler to have ever appeared on television. I could watch that guy. Look, back in the 90s, I said him and one other guy said they are the future of pro wrestling. Neither one turned out to be true. I think the problem was, and you've told me before, if you talk to Dean Malenko, you've told me he's the funniest son of a bitch in the room. He's got a cutting wit. He can turn a phrase. I think the problem was you put a mic in front of him and it didn't come across.
No.
I think it's just one of those things. It didn't carry well. I think Dean Malenko is a fucking major talent. I think he is one of the most overlooked person easily. Like we said before, he could be my number one on this list easily. Yeah. And when they got him to the WWE, they just didn't know what the fuck to do with him there either. So it was just one of those things that, you know what he is? He's the perfect gaijin wrestler in Japan.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to talk. All he's got to do is whip your ass. Yeah.
I respect Dean Malenko more than I do anybody on the planet. I don't know if he knows that, you know what I mean? Like, I at one time, Dean and I were so close, I would have killed or died, anything for Dean, you know?
Order Pin Me, Pay Me, Have Boots Will Travel by professional wrestler Bobby Blaze Smedley. Go to Amazon.com and get your copy now. It's a powerful and insightful 5-star memoir available to download or in paperback print editions.
I got lost on the road somewhere. Was it Texas or was it Canada?